Hopefully that sounds better for you. How's that doing for you today? All right, fantastic. That's very sorry. I've been playing around with equipment, playing around with some new software. So more than likely, I jacked something up, and because I can hear myself in my headset, I presumed everything was working just fine. But thank you for the feedback there. So we're glad to see everything. So we had a straggler come in here today at about 10 o'clock. Sorry for the false alarm there. I'm just trying to put the word out early on that we're going to be streaming today at 5 o'clock. Everybody seems to get the notice a little bit too late. So I try to plug it out there real early in the morning when you're getting your cup of coffee, coming back from your church day. You can go, oh yeah, that's today. It's today at 5. So what do you got? What do you got on bleach? You got anything creative in your roadside box besides beer and cigarettes? All right, well, let's move along here with let's find out what's going on in your roadside kits. All right. So basically, I'm going to be going over some. Oh, hello, hello, Kevin's Mobile Automotive Repair. How you doing today? We are just getting the party started right here. We're going to be going over some do's and don'ts of what you should and what you shouldn't have in your emergency kit, and or what you should be aware of what you're buying. Most importantly, that's what I that's what I want to kind of put out there is, do you know what you're getting? So, if you recognize this vehicle, this is the classic vehicle from National Lampoons. And what I ask you is, what are you doing with your car? And it's like, is this a you is are you just a daily driver going from A to B? Just go to work, you come home, you fall asleep, you wake up, you go to work. Okay, we can make an emergency kit for that. Uh, do you have a vehicle that likes to go out and do some overlanding? Uh, Maybe you do some long distance driving every once in a while for work, pleasure. Got to go to a theme park. You know, Disney World's pretty far away if you try to hoof it. Maybe you haul a lot of cargo for work, or maybe you got some horses and you got to take the horse trailers to fair, or maybe that's just your hobby, getting out and around with some trailers. You got the dirt bikes, you got the ATVs. Then let's not forget our bikers and our campers. They make up about half this mess. So there's a lot of things that we can do with our vehicles and we can get super creative. Okay? Next thing is who's in your vehicle here, okay? These are not my kids. Thank God these are not my kids. These are some weird internet kids. All right? But you know, if you're going solo, hands-on mechanic, how you doing there? Greetings, great to see you. See here. Are there any aftermarket auto tuners you could recommend for a 2017 Forester? No, sir. OE. Oh, wait. Let me stop you there. You want a rear O2 or do you want an AFR? Because we have an AFR sensor as your precat, and your precat must be OEM. We are very picky about that. Our computers love OEM and they hate everything else. Now you can go pick up a third party Denso from your local AutoZone and get away with that, but I think the price difference is maybe $10. All right, so we're gonna talk. These are just some food for thought here. Who are your passengers? Okay, you got family members, friends. You're doing an Uber, a ride along. You got basic stowaways. You always got that person who wants to bum a ride. And let's not forget our furry companions. All right, dogs, and cats. So we got some types of emergency kits that I'm just going to be working with here. And I know I'm not going to hit them all, but you guys go ahead and remind me what I'm missing in the comments, okay? If I forget anything, that's what the comments are for. Let me know. Well, we got your daily driver, your adventurer, and your off the grid, which is going to be hopefully encompassing everything. It's our camping, overlanding, off-roading, hunting, hiking, fishing. And you see some of this stuff does kind of leak back into the other categories. I'm considering our daily adventures. Those are going to be your one-day turnarounds where you wake up at dawn, you head out, and you come back at dark. And daily drivers, these are just your grocery getters, soccer moms, going A to B, inner city drivers, stuff like that. Pre-made kits. I'm not a big fan of these pre-made kits, okay? But these are the ones that you see at the Wally World. You see them on Amazon and eBay. They're kind of gimmicky. They're anywhere between 20 and $50. Sometimes grandma gets them for you because she's worried about you. A lot of this stuff is one size fits most for the situation, and some of it's not really all that great and is, I would say, garbage once it survives about a year in your car. Think about these jumper cables. These look like nice jumper cables, but they might end up being only 5 feet long. And if you've ever used 5 foot long jumper cables, they don't work out so well. Usually you need about a good 12 feet to safely use some jumper cables, especially if you got a 4x4. Or maybe you're trying to, you got somebody who's squirreled around off the side of the road and you're maneuvering your vehicle around their vehicle. Having that 12-foot jumper lead set, it's pretty handy. And then, not to mention, these jumper leads that typically come in these smaller packages, they're made out of cheaper wire, thinner gauge, and they may not give you the ability to push those angry pixies through the wires to get a completely dead battery started. So you might have a learning experience with that. See, where can these pre-made kits go? Well, I found the most expensive kit I could on Amazon here for 145 bucks, and you can see what a spectacular mess it is. A lot of this stuff I wouldn't even trust. I mean, we got like some Alibaba $20 air pump. I got some plastic reflectors, this sheet of plastic, some random fuses that I probably wouldn't trust because if you've ever diagnosed cars and used the Harbor Freight fuses as a replacement, you know that that's a big mistake. Glow sticks, who knows how old those glow sticks are? Again, we already mentioned these jumper cables. Those don't look like good jumper cables, guys. So like you might be able to jumpstart a lawnmower with them. That's about it. This toe strap looks all of maybe 4 feet long, and those hooks probably hold maybe about 2 feet, or I'm sorry, 200 foot-pounds of force on them. So I don't know what you're supposed to do with them. Maybe tie down your groceries. This stupid multi-tool. I don't even think I could cut myself with that. I mean, so this looks like a big waste. It really does. And that's why I want you to steer away from these pre-built ones and, go out and make something for yourself. That's right. Thicker is better for those amps, especially if you got diesel. Ooh, yeah. It's like when you're trying to jumpstart a friend's diesel, you need to give that thing as much moxie as possible. And some of you guys already beat me to the punch in the slides. I like that. I like that. Good job, Unbleached. Okay, so let's start out with the daily driver here. Some things that I have in my car as a daily driver. Hey, Fluffy, good to see you here. Yeah, I wish the Matco truck had a roadside emergency kit, but they would probably contract Alibaba to make it like the rest of their stuff. But you're a fan of it. I'm sure as long as they spray paint it green, you'll buy it. Yep. All right. So if you hear anything crying in the background, it's not us strangling children. It's a cat crying for food that we already fed. She hates it. So when it comes to putting extra tools in your car, I'm going to say this out there for the non-mechanic people and the people who are not good with tools. If you're not good with tools, don't put tools in your car. Clear and simple. You're just going to waste money because you won't know what to buy. You won't know what to use, and you're better off just calling AAA for help. But this little this little pack right here, I have it. It's by Facom. It's about $89 here is on the Amazon site. I love it a lot. It's a good bit driver. Comes in a 1/4 inch. You can get it in SAE and metric, and it goes all the way up to 15 millimeters. That's going to be great for doing some taillight bulbs on the fly. It's going to be great for doing maybe a battery, depending on how buried it is. It's like, of course, if it's under a seat like a Mercedes, maybe not. But definitely on those Chryslers where they hide them in the floorboard, or maybe Ford where they hide them behind an airbox, you'll definitely be able to get a battery in and out of there. get a good tire plug kit. And I picked out the one with the most comfy handles on it. Stay away from the ones with the plastic handles. Those reamers are technically or traditionally just hot melted into the plastic. And if you get a little too aggressive with them, they'll snap and slice your hand open. Fun story about that one. This guy right here, this little light. This is a strobe, comes in a 3 pack for 20 bucks. They're USB rechargeable. They're pretty sweet. I actually do got a set, and they saved my butt a couple of times because as soon as I got off on the side of the road here out in Texas, man, people are doing 80 miles an hour on the side of the road, you know, and you got to have a blinky light to get their attention. Sometimes those little triangles just aren't enough. And a lot of you have already said jump boxes. Yes, jump boxes are super nice to have if you can afford them. Like they can go up pretty pricey. I know you can get a decent one maybe for about 20, 30 bucks. Um, I picked out this DeWalt one here just because of the fact that I like that it has a built-in air compressor, and it's got some USB ports on there too. So you can get some multi-use stuff out of it. So you decide to go like day camping or fishing, you still keep your phone charged. Maybe you can inflate a tube. Yep. Slice it up, man. Get some good staples in your hand too at the end of the day. And a sucker from the doctor. And then here in Texas, it's 102 degrees outside, and I learned my lesson. When my car it didn't break down on the side of the road, but all of a sudden the blower motor decided it didn't want to work. I was pretty mad that I didn't have some reserve water sitting in the back of the trunk. I would have really liked to have had some water because getting stuck in bumper to bumper traffic for 40 minutes and not having anything but the mother nature spitting on the side of my face with her hot breath. I could have really wished I really wanted a bottle of water. I don't care if it was hot. I really wanted some water. Okay. But most importantly to hit this is lights. Make sure you get something stroby. Okay. Okay. Little supplemental stuff. If you want to one up the game and you want to be the overachiever and go the extra mile, here's some supplemental stuff. And this is from me living way up north on the Canadian border, where I was in Montana, I was in the UP of Michigan, and now I'm all the way down here in the south. A lot of this stuff will apply. Okay. One thing is get yourself some reflective gear for the side of the road. Okay. Now, it's hard to find like a big yellow poncho, but you can at Northern Tools, you can find some high vis ponchos and some hoodies, just like this one I have pictured here. They had it for like $20, and it's badass. It's button up. You want to be high vis on the side of the road, especially if you break down on the highway, especially if you break down in the left lane, which is the most dangerous lane. Okay. A lot of times you can't get over to the right lane. That's dangerous. Uh, we got the triangles for some reflectors. When you're laying down your reflectors, make sure you walk back into traffic, okay, and lay those reflectors out. Give those people a heads up. You want to get those things trailing back at least 50 feet on your car so they can see you. Uh, Worst case scenario, a roll of this nice reflective tape, you can get that for $5 off the Amazon. So, things happen. Just start putting some reflective pieces all around your body on the car where you're working. People are going to see it. This is the nice, good high vis stuff that has a little bit of aluminum in it. It shines. Drinking water. Yeah, you can leave bottled water in the back of your car, but we all know that those Costco bottles, once they get thrashed around in your car a little bit, they get beat up and they start leaking. The caps, they're not really sealed tight. But you can get actual survival water, which has been vacuum sealed. So it can stay in these nice little drinking pouches for up to 5 years, and it can live in about 150-degree temperature. So you can keep some of those in the wheel well of your tire and last there a long, long time. You won't have to worry about it. Here in Texas, good tip too. Get yourself an umbrella. They actually make umbrellas too that are very resistant to UV. Just get one of these cheap little, or get one of these little small compact ones. I found this one for 25 bucks. It's really nice. So if you do have to stand outside your car for whatever reason, you got some shade. And believe it or not, these tinfoil blankets, man, they do work. Okay. Not only do they block conspiracy theorists, but they also keep the radiated heat inside your body. And they fold up real small, like the size of a fun size Snickers bar. You'll never get them folded back up. Like once you unfold them, you throw them away. That's it. But they do work, man. They're good stuff. What we got in the comments? Anyone that has kids in school, I would get them a small portable jump pack so they don't need to rely on anyone else to start their car if they do stupid stuff like playing radio when the car's off. Heck yeah, I see that so much, man. Oh, says good luck going towards IKEA for the next few years. I know what you're talking about. Okay, you're adventurers. Uh, Again, just a reminder: adventurers are people who are going to be gone the majority of the day. Be aware that some of these locations may not have your cell phone service available. Even though you might see a cell tower, it may not be an AT&T tower. It may not be a Verizon tower. So keep that in mind. Are you taking your pets or are you leaving your pets? So you want to make sure that you talk to your friends and neighbors and make sure that somebody's taking care of your pets and feeding them and letting them out of the house, or at least if you're leaving them in the backyard, making sure that they're not overheating or going crazy in the hot Texas sun while you're gone. Important thing. When I was out in Montana, it happens all the time. People go out on a day adventure, they go out on a day hike in the mountains. They don't tell anybody where they're going. Come Monday, we're like, hey, Billy's late for work. Okay. And then halfway through the day, we go like, somebody should call Billy. And then we start calling Billy, and hey, nobody know where Billy's at. And then Tuesday comes around. Hey, Billy didn't show up for work again. Okay. So somebody finally decides to go to his house after work. And then the neighbors are like, yeah, we saw him leave Saturday, but we don't know where he went. And we're like, ah, shoot. Did he take his big rig, which is his hunting mobile? Sure enough, Billy's stuck up in the mountains and he can't get back. And he's in no cell phone reception. He didn't tell anybody where he was going. Didn't even tell the ranger. So Billy made it home Wednesday. He had a bad week. So that leads to my point is always leave a note where you're going. You'd be surprised what kind of trouble you can get in and how grateful it can be, at least if somebody knew kind of where you were going. And that hmm, you see where I'm going. Let's not kick a dead horse. Tell people where you're going when you're going on a day hike. It's important. Like a Facebook comment. I guess that works, right? A text. Hey, for the adventurers. Okay, know your territory. There's a lot of ranger towers, there's a lot of ranger stations, and there's a lot of park stations. You can easily find out where these are at by going through your state websites or just Googling this stuff. And you can leave them a message too and let them know, hey, I'm going up on such and such pass. And they know that that pass is dangerous. And if they don't see you check out, then they might put that on their to do list to go make sure that you're not stuck up there. For instance, like, hey, Ranger Bill, I drive a white Forerunner. I'm going to be parked over there in lot 36 and I'm going to go hit that trail. Okay, well, he's doing his closing duties at 6 o'clock at night and he still sees a white Forerunner. He'd be like, oh, I bet you that dude's stuck up there somewhere. So he calls it in, they go find you. Little things like that can make a big difference. And these people, they know how to find you really quick. They train in it. We used to do a lot of search and rescue in Montana. Car keys, I see a lot of people get car keys lost on their daily adventures. You clip them to your backpack, you put them in your backpack, you take all your junk out while you have your lunch, and then you lose your car keys. And figure a strategy out with your keys. Now, some cars are really cool where you can actually lock your keys in your car, like the Fords. They got the little beepity boops on the side of the door. Subarus have a little decoder switch on the back of the trunk. If you read your owner's manual, it'll teach you how to do that. You can lock your key in your car. Maybe just get a hide a key underneath your car. There's a lot of good strategies, but if it means keeping a copy of a key underneath your car and then one on your body, That'd be really good because it would really suck to be out in the middle of nowhere and lose your keys. That's the worst kind of feeling, especially if you're the driver of a group. If you're going out into the dead space where there's no cell phone service, you're probably going to need some alternative communication. Okay. You can get some ham radios or you can get some UHF mobile radios. These radios have gotten so cheap now over the years. They used to be hundreds of thousands of dollars back in the 90s. Now you can get these little handheld things for $100. It's amazing. Just make sure that when you check in at the stations, that you do a comm check with the station to make sure that your device can communicate, and two, that you know what frequencies to be on. Also be aware that if you buy a particular radio, I think it's like if you buy a ham radio, you might need an operator license, but you don't need one for a UHF radio. These are just some examples of some emergency locator stuff that you can get. Okay, your Uniden, that's your basic UHF radio. You can get them for like $100 to $200. Get a really good. This is not a rape whistle, guy. This is actually a very, very finely tuned locator whistle that can be heard about a mile long. It's good for locating you. So if you do make radio contact with somebody, you can start whistling them towards your area, bring them in. You can even pop smoke. Just make sure that you're buying signal smoke and not a smoke bomb. Smoke bombs burn at a different temperature. You might start a forest fire. These signal smokes, they are designed to smolder and not start anything. And then a lot of them are supposed to be a little bit biodegradable too if you leave them behind. Again, just hitting on the radio that you buy, make sure you don't need an operator's license. Let's get into the fun stuff, the overlanding. Do we got any overlanders in here? Because we're going to get to the off-roaders. We'll get to overlanding too. Okay, if you're overlanding, I expect you to know a little bit about vehicle maintenance. I expect you to know how to use vehicle tools. You should not be overlanding if you do not know one of these two categories very well. Okay, because if you go down out there on the road, you're kind of expected to do your own field maintenance. Okay, before you go out, before you hit the road, you need to do a good safety inspection on your car. You need to make sure that all your tires are tight, all your tire pressure is good, all your fluid levels are good, all those U joints are good, your brake lines, your brake pads, all the stuff. If for those Jeeps, the Jeep Wranglers, you'd be surprised how many of them can trash a front axle during an off-roading event. They come back, they park their car, and then they take it back out and they pop axles, and they want to know why their joints are breaking. Well, it can happen, man. It's you go do some mud bogging, and then you hit the highways at 90 miles an hour. You come home, you park it, and you never do a post check. So when you go overlanding, especially if your overlander's your daily driver, you need to be doing pre and post checks, because there's nothing worse than going overlanding and then getting your car towed home and finding out that you got no way to get to work tomorrow. So brakes, tires, plan your route, stick to your route. If you're overlanding, know your trail, stick to your trail. Don't make a decision at the middle of your trail and say, "Ooh, that looks adventurous. We should go down it." You just earmark it and say, "Hey, next time we should go down that trail. Let's stick to this trail because we told everybody we were going to go on Trailhead Blazer and they're expecting us to come back." Most importantly, I like this one here is that trail maintained? Is it maintained by the users? Is it maintained by the state? There's a big difference. Some of these trails are just maintained by enthusiasts. So if you go in the beginning of the season, they can be really, really overgrown. And you might need to be taking some chainsaws and some weed whackers out there, at least a machete. Be prepared for that. And then check your weather before you go out there. Check the weather before the week before, the few days before, and what you're expecting after. Okay? Because if it rained 3 days prior to your trip going out there, then it's going to be pretty muddy. And if you don't have the tires to get out of mud or the tires to crawl through mud, and you're just going out there on some all terrains, you're going to be spinning the whole time and you're not going to have a good trip. You got to think about that. You'd be surprised how many forerunners can get stuck on wet grass with basic um, road tires. All right, they turn into racing slicks real fast. And hey, an extra gas can, you never know. You might decide to sit and let that car idle while you have some lunch, and that can chew up 2 gallons, and that can screw your day over. So take 5 extra gallons of gas, strap it to the boot of the car. Special tools, there's going to be special tools for every situation when you go overlanding, and you should be with an overlanding community that'll fill you in with this. Let the chat group people here. I'm sure a lot of people already are doing overlanding, and there's a lot of different special tools out there. And when you acquire them and when you use them, or I'm sorry, when you acquire them, learn how to use them. Learn how they work on your car specifically. Okay. If Bobby shows you how to use it on his Jeep, well, take it over to your Forerunner and see how you use it on your Forerunner. It might have a different jack up point. Um, I've always, when we did overlanding, I insisted and I looked like the nerd of the group, but it was kind of like a good safety thing for the newbies and for the old guys to kind of have some bragging rights, but plan a beer day. All right. You can call it like, hey, let's go do a training day. Everybody bring a big lunch, you bring a couple beers. We'll get out there early and everybody plays with their equipment, make sure their equipment works. And then the young guys get to see all the cool gadgets. The old guys, the experienced people get to brag about their stuff. They get to take those never know stuff off their vehicles and get to have some fun. But rehearse in using this equipment. You'd be surprised. This big jack right here, you'd be surprised how many people don't know how to use it. It's been zip tied to the top of their Jeep for 5 years. It's never been actuated. It's probably busted as shit. They probably don't know that they might need to have a flagstone underneath it and that soft soil because all they're doing now is just jacking that thing into the dirt. So practice with your equipment, keep it clean, keep it serviced. And if you use it, inventory it when you get it back. Put it back where it belongs. Here's the big fun stuff. Let's talk about the off-roading. Hopefully, I was saving the best for last here. When you're off-roading, you got to know your vehicle's limits. Okay. There's a lot of really good fun YouTube videos out there of people just failing in the most magnificent ways. Matt's Off-Road Recovery runs a great channel. I recommend everybody subscribe to him and see what he's doing. But it's like what they show you at the dealership and what you see online may not be what your vehicle can do because you're not experienced to do it, or you may not have the upgrades to do it. And again, pre and post checks is very, very, very important when you're going out there and you're doing some off-roading. And I'm talking about some big off-roading. And you might even have to do a post check after you clear an obstacle. Okay, this guy right here in this picture, okay, he's crawling up a big sand embankment. He's got the wheels cocked all the way to the right. As soon as he gets to the top, if I was that driver, the first thing I would do is shut that. I would get underneath and I would look at these axle U joints right here. Okay. I would make sure that those things were okay because they were running full cocked at high torque. I want to make sure they're not sloppy. And you'd be surprised how many of those U joint bolts can shake loose from that. When you're trying to go through an obstacle, don't be embarrassed to use a spotter. You'll see a lot of people use spotters. The most experienced people use spotters. Get somebody out of the truck, have them watch your front end as you're trying to clear an obstacle. It is the biggest way that you see tires pop off. You see people get stuck, and it's just because they think they got it. No, get somebody out there, have them stand, get a bird's eye view, and make sure that you're clearing your obstacles correctly because where your nose is going with your vehicle may not be where the ass end of your vehicle also wants to go. You definitely want to have some experience with this recovery equipment. Watching YouTube videos is not going to be enough. You're going to have to get out there. You're going to have to practice with it. You're going to have to use it. You're going to want to get with a team of people, and you're going to want to use this stuff all the time. And then maintenance on your vehicle is going to be super important. Validate all your fluids. And here's a big tip too. If you're going to go in any kind of high standing water, you're going to want to extend the breather tubes on all your equipment. That's your front and rear differentials. That's your transmission. You want to bring those breather tubes. All right, they only stick like that far off of your drive axle. Your drive axle might only be 10 inches off the ground. Okay, so if you go through 12 inches of water, now your breather tube is underwater and your differential is sucking in air. Okay, that's how your differential gets messed up. Well, there are kits that you can do. It's like putting a snorkel on your intake box for your engine. You can put snorkels on your differentials and your transmission case so that way that those apparatus can still breathe. Your recovery equipment is going to be much more expensive and you're going to need to be much more rehearsed in it. I can't say it again and again. If you're buying a winch from Harbor Freight and you're expecting it to bail you out, it's probably not. Those Harbor Freight winches, they're just there for show. A good winch is going to set you upwards to about a couple $1,000 minimum. Minimum. Make sure it's got a good remote control on it too. So that way your spotter can operate their winch as you're crawling up a hill or you're trying to help somebody else recovery. You're going to want to make sure that you got shackles for your tow hitches. You're not going to want to use ball joints. That's what the center of the piece is here. Shackles all the way because your ropes, they're going to pop off those ball joints in a heartbeat. You need to shackle everything. You got your tread gear. We see those things zip tied to the sides of cars all the time. They probably never get used, but they do come in handy when you're out there in snatch blocks. Okay. You want to have at least a good 2 or 3 good snatch blocks with your recovery kit when you're trying to pull yourself out. You could really compound the amount of force or you can make your winch work 4 times better using snatch blocks. And they're so cool. You'll love them to pieces. They just wrap right around there. You add a pulley, you add another pulley, and there you go. You've just doubled the force without having to double the equipment of your vehicle. Isn't physics amazing? And then right here, this is from Matt's recovery channel. This is a kinetic energy rope for pulling people out. This is really, really important. Okay. When you're trying to do those big jerks and pull people out and you see that they're just using rope, when you're doing that, all that kinetic energy has to go somewhere and it goes into the vehicles. And that's how people get the front ends of their vehicles ripped off. That's how the welds break on their vehicles. Well, that's why you want to have these kinetic energy ropes right here. Because when you do those big, hard jerk pulls, that rope will stretch out about another 15-20% and you won't get that. And you won't get the whiplash in your car when trying to do it. Obviously, there's going to be a time for having static lines and some chains and hooks and shackles. But when you're trying to do a basic, hey, let me hook this up to my trailer hitch and you hook this up to the front of your car, let me just, pull you out. You want to have these kinetic lines. And they're in the affordable range. A good one's going to start at about $250, and then this matte one is about $250. All right, we're going to finish up with first aid kits. So if you're getting out there into the sticks and you're going to be staying over a couple of days, you're going to be doing some recovery with your vehicles because you live life on the hard edge, the dangerous edge, whatever the term is. Maybe you want to look into getting some first aid training, be familiar with this equipment. Maybe you want to get some CPR training so you understand the equipment that you're taking out. You're not cool if you take the big red bag of life saving and you don't know what any of this junk does or you know how to use it. I mean, in fact, you could really screw somebody's life up if you try to use CPR or you try and use a tourniquet and you use it incorrectly or you perform the task incorrectly. You don't want to do that. You can go to the redcross.org. You can find local classes hosted in your town. They are very, very inexpensive. Some of them are offered online through Zoom. Some of them are in person, and you can get certificates that are good for 1 year to 5 year. And prices range anywhere from $30 to $150. If you can get your whole off-road group to go at once, you can get a better deal. So if you got a big group of off-roaders and you say, hey, I think we should all go take a first aid class or maybe a combat lifesaver class in case one of us gets hit by a whiplash chain or one of these winches Or remember that days Billy got 3 staples in his face because that branch hit him and we couldn't do anything about it except put some super glue and Bud Ice on it for the weekend? You know, maybe one of you could step up and you could fix Billy up. So think about it that way. If you want to go buy any of this stuff, I'm going to recommend a website called rescueessentials.com. Reason is you want to stay away from the Amazon, the eBays, the Alibabas, and even some of the military surplus places. One is you don't know how old that stuff is. It literally could be some leftover stuff from a city auction. It could be expired. You don't know how well it's been kept, if it's even been stored in an environmentally controlled area. It could have been sitting in a Connex box for 3 years. And then this guy says, "Psh, it's all expired. We got to get rid of it." He wholesales it on Amazon. And then goofballs like us go out there and be like, "Ooh, I'm going to be Ranger Rick. I'm going to be G.I. Joe. And now I got me all this badass military spec safety gear, and then it's all rotten on the inside. The bags are punctured and the stuff don't work." So if you buy from rescueessentials.com, all this stuff is certified. It is vacuum sealed. It's good for at least 3 to 5 years. It's all sterilized. It's good stuff. And it's very, very affordable. This basic kit that's highlighted here in yellow, this is called an IFAC kit, individual first aid kit. A refill for just a basic pouch, and you can make your own pouch. All right. You can steal your wife's purse, steal your girlfriend's purse. You can go to Salvation Army and go steal a purse from there, or be nice and just pay for it if you want. But you don't need to have a special red bag that costs hundreds of dollars. And you just get a regular, nice old gym bag and chuck all that stuff in there, tape it up, and throw it into the boot of your car and put a date on it and say like, "Hey, every year I'm just going to make sure that none of this stuff has been punctured. It's good to go." That's how that works. And with that, folks, we're done. That's today's module. I do want to thank everybody for coming on out. I want to thank you for sticking around. I'm going to scroll through the comments. I'm going to see if anybody had anything good and clever to say. Oh, what's going back to this hands-on mechanical position two-way sensor? We're talking about an O2 sensor. I don't know how that worked. Thicker is always better on your jumper cables. That is correct. And get the length too. So make sure that you beef up the size of the cable with the length of the cable. If you are going to pack jumper cables, 12 feet is the minimum that I prefer to use. Okay. Because as I've said again, it is really, really hard to squirrel 5 foot cables around vehicles, especially with Ford wanting to tuck them way in the back of the engine bay and then Chrysler wanting to put them in the middle of the car. You're just going to, you're going to really appreciate having that extra slack space. Starter packs are real good now, 2000 amps and stupid small. Yes, they are stupid small. And let me see if I can get a screen share. Let's go look at some. We got some time. Out there in the Amazon, and let's look at some no codes, aka no goes. They got one that I really like to recommend. This one right here. I do like recommending this one as everyone's first jump pack. It's the GV40. It's 1,000 amps. And you might think that's not enough, but I can get about 5 or 6 good jump starts on a dead battery. Secondly, this still has the over. Stop doing that. Can I make you bigger and you'll stop? Thank you. This still has right here the big red button of death. Okay, that's going to turn these cables into death wires, meaning that this box becomes its own car battery. So you could technically pull the battery out of a regular vehicle and you could hook this up in place of it and still start the car. So this box will start a completely dead battery. Some of these other jump boxes, they will not start a dead battery. I know from example. So if you're in the 50 to 60 market range, you might get a jump box that'll start a vehicle, but you may not get a jump box that'll start a completely dead car. Like, because if you left the headlights on, you left the flashers on, or you left the radio on, something stupid like that. You're also going to get some nice USB outputs here too. So if you weren't going to use it in an emergency and you just needed an emergency uh, boost box for your cell phone, you could take this on the airplane because these get back on there. Those jumper cables, they disconnect, and this becomes a nice little slim case for you to go take on the airplane, and then you got yourself a nice little boost. That's pretty cool. So not bad for $99. I do recommend that one the most. Okay. See these cheaper ones over here? I'm just going to pick on this one because I can already see the technology that's faulty in it. One, this battery pack right here, this is a basic lithium stack. It doesn't have the circuit protection in here against charging from the alternator. So once you start the vehicle, if any of this lithium got hit with flyback voltage, this thing would just swell up, pop, and catch on fire. That's what this little guy here in the corner is for. Okay. But because it's on the outside and it's susceptible to damage, I've seen where those have gotten dicked up. And then, of course, that's just more stuff to lose. And also buying one of these little random Alibaba starters. If you had to get a replacement part, let's say you wanted to get some new jumper cables because you disconnected them and you wanted to use it as a USB pack for an air flight and you lost them, you can actually call up NOCO and you can get replacements for like 20 bucks. That's why I like the NOCOs, because you can get replacement parts. It's fully serviceable. These other ones, if you lost any piece of it, you'll probably end up throwing it away. This particular one right here, get big. There we go. See this plug right here? This blue plug? That's a generic fitting plug for some generic fitting cables. And I watched a technician who lost these clamps and then just said, well, hey, I'm going to use the clamps from my other boost box and I'm going to put them in there. Well, that other boost box had the flyback circuit protection built into it. This boost box didn't, because it was relying on the flyback circuit protection being inside of the cables. That little guy, he let the smoke out and he didn't see it to the point to where it caught on fire. And part of the engine bay caught on fire. So there was some damage to the vehicle. You can get tire inflators so cheap. I would recommend that you just get the ones that plug into your 12-volt cigarette plug, to be honest. Don't get ones that have rechargeable batteries. That's just more stuff to lose. It really is. The odds of you wanting to go more than 10 feet away from your car to blow something up is going to be slim to nil. And if you are going to get something along the lines of that, then you're most likely in the DeWalt or the Milwaukee family, and you're going to buy one of those lines of tools. See, like right here, this DeWalt one is part of the 20-volt max. It's got the tire inflator. It's also got the extra heavy duty tubing so you can inflate mattresses or you can inflate inner tubes if you want to go floating. Get some multi-use out of that one. Hey, thanks very much, Jason. Trying. Yep, he did. Yeah, we ended up using a fire extinguisher on that car. That was fun. I do have this little Milwaukee M12 one. It is noisy as all can be, but surprisingly, those little M12 batteries last a long time when you're inflating. The one thing I don't like about it though is it doesn't have all the other cool accessories that the DeWalt 20 Max has with the bigger hose and the leads. And Milwaukee really didn't come through when they came out with the M18 series. I thought they really missed their mark there. DeWalt really picked up the slack for them. It's kind of embarrassing. Let's dig back through the comments to see what we got. What's sad is the only tool truck we have is oh, dude, I'm so sorry, dude. But if everybody in the shop keeps making a plug at the Mac Tools franchiser and the 800 number and the Snap-on and the cornhole, they will eventually get somebody out there. We had a problem with trying to get a Mac tool guy out to our location for 2 years when I showed up at my new shop because I came from a shop where I was very big like Fluffy. I had a Macco 4S triple bank, double locker, center drawer, had a lot of Mac tool stuff. And I was letting them know about every month, hey, like I'm starting to let these Mac tools go because you don't got a guy out here. And by the time they finally got a guy out there, like half my Mac tool inventory was gone. Why? Because I got tired of trying to chase down my old Mac guy trying to warranty stuff. And, I was like, I'm going to work with the brand that shows up at the shop. All my cars have tow rope, jumper cables, and gloves. Good on you, man. And make sure those gloves fit too. And keep them in a Ziploc bag. Oh my gosh. I once tried to get I had to go use a pair of gloves. I'm like, yeah, I got some gloves. They're in the spare wheel well. And then I opened them up. I was like, oh, where have they been? And what were they used on last? And what's that smell? That was like putting my hands in some hot puke. Oh, yeah. Nobody wants to be bleeding on the side of the road performing a tire repair. No, they do not. Let me see if they sell this. Betadine is another good thing for your first aid. Trying to see if they have it here on the Amazon Poo, and they don't. So I'm going to do a generic search for it. Here it is. And of course, page not found. Jerks. Okay, this stuff right here. Neil Med Piercing Aftercare. They sell this for tattoos, but this is also a fantastic wound wash for open cuts, scrapes, insect bites, burns, and it's just a saline solution. That's all it is. It's a sterile saline solution, and you can spray it upside down. So I do recommend a can of that, and they're cheap too, super cheap. Like you can get a big 12-ounce can for maybe $5-6. I actually have one on my toolbox because when you're working on heavy line all the time, that unfinished metal on those exhaust systems and those manifolds, and they'll cut right through leather sometimes. So the first thing I do is I hit it with that wound wash, and then once I put the Band-Aid on and a little bit of super glue, it's, it's like I didn't have a cut the next day. But if I don't use that wound wash, that cut will stay open for like the next 3 days. Easy does it. How's it going on, man? Coming in a little late. Hey, you got anything for off-roading? What do you do? What do you got in your roadside kit? They got Snap-on Amazon. They might have some Snap-on jackets. They don't got no Snap-on Amazon. What are you talking about? We got to look that one up. Maybe a Snap-on sticker. There's no Snap-on out. Oh, what's this? Oh, that's probably some illegal Snap-on graphic. There's that janky little toolbox that Snap-on gives away when you buy a $20,000 toolbox. You can get it here off Amazon for 45 bucks. Does it come in green? It does. Look at that. Comes in green, Fluffy. Got yourself a little toddler box. Yeah, hey, cordless impact. That wouldn't be bad if you're going out off-roading. Take a cordless impact. Take some cordless impact tools, most definitely. Uh, I learned one of the best things from somebody who does a lot of professional off-roading, and he has shown me where he has tightened down his axle U joints before going on an off-road trip, and then he'll come back off of hitting the trails. Uh, we get off, and then he shows me. He says, "Okay," he was like, "We're gonna hit all the bolts again," and they will all walked about 15 degrees off, just because he a lot of those tight turns and a lot of those maneuvers he made in his Wrangler, the steering wheel was all the way to one side, and everything was at full lock, full torque. So I learned something that day. Yeah, and what we're talking about is we're talking about these areas right here. All this stuff, all that can walk loose just from one day of crawling. It really can. I witnessed it myself. And he said he also learned the lesson the hard way from just going out, beating up his truck 2 or 3 trips, and then all of a sudden his entire front axle just snaps and falls off, and his car was stuck out in the trail for about a week until they could get out there with the tools to jack it up and replace all the cartons. No, man, I'm broke. I don't got anything to buy. I'll make Fluffy buy it. He's the one that's rich right now. He's giving stuff away. You got to jump on his channel, watch his shorts. He's doing a giveaway right now, but you got to be a member. Okay. You got to be a member. But that said, gentlemen, I'm not going to hold you up. It is now 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Thank you very much. Don't forget to tune into JT and the next hour or two. Maybe he might be late. Maybe he will show up on time. Who knows? Thank you again. Thank you for your patronage. And remember to hit the thumbs up before you check out, okay?